Hello, welcome. It's Neil Dugan here. We're on the second of the Big Barriers series. So, we've got this three video series around the big barriers to attaining this enlightenment process, coming out of the upward cycle rather than the downward cycle that we've been looking at for so long in the series now of depression, anxiety, and mania. So, in Big Barrier 2, what we're looking at is the pain body. Now, the pain body is the imaginary construct of the emotional center. So this is the imaginary construct of the mind which handles all emotions. In the last video we looked extensively at the ego, which was the imaginary construct of the intellect, and in the next video, the video that I'll be making tomorrow, we'll be looking at the imaginary construct in the physical mind. So this is the mind that looks after all of the practical matters of your body. Okay, so for the pain body, how does it operate? What is it? How is it actually functioning? Well, the pain body really serves the purpose of collecting suffering. So in our lives, and when we're asleep in particular, we're amassing suffering. So we've got all of these so-called negative emotions occurring, and all of this begins to accumulate suffering upon suffering upon suffering upon suffering. And the pain body is the reservoir for actually encouraging the process and consuming the process of consolidating all of this suffering. Now, there is a positive side to this, in that it allows us to actually have a reservoir of information about our emotional climate, so that we can compare and contrast it with what's really happening in our world, rather than what we think might be happening, or our imaginary construct around it. Because remember that this disease, this pain body aspect is an imaginary construct. It's not the real deal. It's not really what's happening. It is the feelings that we're having, but these feelings are based on an imaginary construct. So these are imaginary construct-based feelings. When we feed this pain body, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and its appetite gets bigger as well. So, there's all kinds of wonderful sayings like pain will always find friends, and that's absolutely true, because if you are in a state of suffering yourself, and you're feeling a whole lot of emotional pain, then you can guarantee that people are going to be, who are around you, who are going to link into you, will also be having suffering of the similar sort. So this energy, this vibration of these negative emotional thoughts is extremely attractive to more of it. And so we see the disease body actually, the pain body, we see it actually attracting in more and more and more of this type of experience through our environment. So our environment actually is feeding all of this information into us as well. So we ask ourselves the question, what happens if it's not being fed? So, here I am, in my own journey, certainly the journey that I've had, it was jam-packed full of pain body experiences. So the pain body was extremely balanced, or extremely developed. And what I chose to do was to actually stop feeding it. So I actually began the process of stopping feeding it. When you stop feeding it, it really loses its momentum, it loses its power to actually attract more suffering in. So your life will begin to actually be delivering into you less suffering opportunities. So you have fewer and fewer of these opportunities actually coming in for which the suffering could actually occur. Now, as mentioned, of course, the pain body works in sympathy with the disease body and the ego, and generally speaking, the pain body will be operating or acting upon an idea that's coming through from the ego. So the ego begins the normal cycle of creating some sort of an idea. The pain body attracts all of the emotions, and given that it's a huge memory storehouse of patterns of emotions and patterns of thoughts and feelings, and all these habits and all that type of thing. So it gets busy assembling everything that's going to be massaged and contained around this idea that's coming through from the ego. And when things are really at a boil, then it'll feed all of this information and distraction and destructive processes into the disease body, which is the imaginary construct of the physical manifestation of your body. And of course, disease results from this. And the particular aspect of our cycle, or the disease aspects of our cycle that we're looking at here in the descending spiral, so when we're in our descending spiral, is the emotions. So we're dealing with depression. So what we actually have as the disease aspect, so what gets fed in terms of the cycle that we've been studying is depression. So when we're converting our downward spiral into our upward spiral, and rather than descending into more and more depression, anxiety, mania, and being asleep, we decide that we want to wake up. So here we are, we're waking up. What actually happens at this point here? So we've talked a lot about how we actually convert depression into peace and these type of things. But really what we're talking about here now is the process of, rather than going into an automatic spiral around emotions, what we do is we look for a practical or a common sense approach to what we're dealing with. And coming out of this becomes this awareness of not only are we reconnecting, but we're also able to actually confirm the information that's coming through from our emotions. So our higher emotions are operating, and at this stage in the cycle, we're able to actually confirm what's happening and just be absolutely certain at what we're wanting to do. And this is a very big change, and the change is actually occurring here in the pain body. So we're going from an unthinking, catastrophic, traumatic process in the emotions, and what we're doing is we're converting this around to what's the practical issues here, what's actually happening, how is this working, is it sensible to actually be having all of these explosive sort of feelings. Perhaps the feelings that would be more appropriate would be some other type of feeling which is far better suited to the circumstances than the sort of traumatic sort of rebound type of emotions that are going on. So what is the technique? The first technique is to actually see the emotions. You have to be able to recognize the emotions. And as we've been going through this series, if you've been watching them carefully, you'll note that there are a tremendous number of emotions that get talked about, and many of them will leave a bit of a sour taste in your mouth, and you might think, well, that doesn't really apply to me. And indeed, when I talk about the idea that you might be manic and you might be depressed and you might be anxious and you might be asleep, most people, when they hear this, they sort of only partly hear it because they're thinking to themselves, this couldn't possibly really relate to me. But the truth of it is that I certainly had all this experience as I was working through these things, and I can guarantee that you are as well. So you need to get into a place where you're actually prepared to witness, observe, and own up to the fact that you are actually experiencing this emotion. So the first step is to see and own up, and respect yourself as an observer in terms of what's actually happening with these emotions. Having seen what the emotions are, you need to actually have a look at the linkages into the disease processes that are going to be happening in the disease bodies, also the linkages that are happening back into the ego, because remember, by the time you actually get into a nice spiral around these emotions, that will be creating all kinds of new opportunities for new ideas to be generated in the ego. So it feeds all the way back into the ego, it's feeding all the way into the disease body, creating all these disease conditions. So you have to see all these interlinkages. So identify it, own up to it, see the linkages. Then you have to start actually letting go of these emotional patterns. You have to begin to let go of them. And there are many techniques for doing this, and I personally recommend the use of EFT tapping. Also Access Consciousness is a very good way of approaching it. And should you actually come to see a practitioner such as myself, then we would be working with consciousness techniques around managing these emotions, how they link into the memories, beliefs, experiences, and all that type of thing. So the self-help techniques that are far and away the best are EFT and Access Consciousness that I'm aware of, and you can easily get information on how they operate, and these will begin the process of unpeeling all of this stuff, so that you can do these releases. So this is the next step that's actually necessary to take. Obviously, at a much higher level, a much more in-depth level, the coaching processes and healing processes that we use in our depression training, far eclipse being the things that you can do from a self-help perspective. So I do urge you to make contact with me if you want to have a discussion about your situation and how we might be able to help you. But you're going to go an awful long way by using techniques such as EFT tapping or Access Consciousness. For that matter, meditation. So meditation, most people think about as being, some sort of much more sort of intellectual or mindy type of thing, but it's very, very useful also, meditation, for releasing and managing emotions as well, emotional states, and particularly all the things that are associated with those emotions. So meditation is another excellent candidate for self-help. Okay, well look, thanks for watching this. Remember to like and subscribe these videos, particularly if you're looking at it on YouTube, or if you're looking at it on the website. Obviously you've already been through that kind of process, but please do share. So share this information with your friends, and don't forget to make contact with me if you've got any questions at all. So thanks for watching, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow on the very last video, which is the video around the disease body. Thanks for watching. Bye.